Everyone stands in stunned silence. The world is in awe as a country once deemed hopeless with an 80% poverty rate emerges as one of the fastest-growing nations globally, now boasting a poverty rate of less than 12%.
The country which the US once called a basket with a hole is now being seen as a success story which is better off than Pakistan. The 33rd largest economy in the world is growing past its impoverished status.
It's a remarkable transformation that has turned it into one of Asia's most surprising success stories. Once considered one of the most impoverished parts of Pakistan, Bangladesh endured years of economic hardship and widespread poverty following its independence in 1971. In fact, by 2006, the situation appeared so dire that when Bangladesh experienced faster economic growth than Pakistan, it was written off as a mere stroke of luck. Since then, Bangladesh has experienced a remarkable trajectory, consistently surpassing Pakistan in GDP growth by a notable margin of approximately 2.5 percentage points per year. In a stunning twist, it has even overtaken India in recent years. With its current GDP standing at a staggering $460 billion, Bangladesh has secured its place as the 35th largest economy globally. Now the question is, what led to Bangladesh's transformation from a poverty-stricken nation to one of the fastest-growing countries globally? Following independence from Britain in 1947, the Indian subcontinent underwent a seismic transformation, culminating in the partition into two separate entities, India and Pakistan, marking one of the largest and most violent population movements in history. Pakistan, comprising West Pakistan, modern-day Pakistan, and East Pakistan, present-day Bangladesh, shared Islam as the predominant religion, yet they were culturally distinct and geographically distant. East Pakistan, despite its larger population, was predominantly Bengali-speaking. However, Bengali Muslims and Hindus found themselves systematically marginalized and devoid of representation by the ruling elite in West Pakistan. Economic exploitation and a lack of investment in East Pakistan exacerbated these tensions. In response, a widespread Bengali nationalist movement emerged, embodied by the Awami League, which secured a majority in Pakistan's inaugural democratic election in 1970. Refusing to cede power, the ruling elites in West Pakistan, under General Yahya Khan, suspended parliament and deployed military forces to East Pakistan in the face of non-violent protests and strikes. The atrocities commenced with brutal massacres in Dhaka, the capital of Bangladesh, on March 25, 1971, before spreading across the nation. The military meticulously targeted individuals on pre-prepared lists, focusing on Bengali nationalists, intellectuals, and Hindus. They aimed to instill fear and subjugate what they perceived as a racially inferior population, especially by eliminating Bengali elites. However, rather than submission, they encountered fierce resistance from the populace, which they ruthlessly suppressed through violence. Young men were singled out as potential threats to their authority, while women and girls were subjected to horrific acts of rape aimed at shattering Bengali families. Despite condemnation of the violence by the U.S. Consul General in Dhaka, known as the Blood Telegram, the Nixon administration opted not to intervene. Meanwhile, a local guerrilla movement garnered support from India, a long-standing adversary of Pakistan since partition. With Indian assistance, the guerrillas compelled a Pakistani surrender in December 1971. By then, the toll of the genocide was staggering, with approximately 3 million lives lost and countless others displaced as refugees in Bangladesh or neighboring India. The aftermath of war was catastrophic, leaving virtually every aspect of Bangladesh's infrastructure in ruins. Roads, bridges, factories, and farms lay devastated. This devastation couldn't have come at a more inopportune time. Just 4 months earlier, the nation was struck by the most devastating tropical cyclone ever recorded, submerging a fifth of the entire country and claiming the lives of over 500,000 people. In the wake of these dual disasters, a team of inspectors dispatched by the World Bank described some urban areas as resembling the aftermath of a nuclear strike. Bangladesh, freshly independent, found itself grappling with the profound challenges of rebuilding amidst ruin. The nation's fledgling state was marked by dire statistics, an average life expectancy of a mere 26 years, and a staggering child mortality rate exceeding 37%. The economic landscape was equally bleak, with individuals scraping by on less than 33 cents a day on average. The hurdles confronting Bangladesh were monumental. Bereft of substantial natural resources and plagued by frequent and calamitous natural disasters, compounded by persistent and often turbulent political instability, the nation found itself adrift without a clear trajectory towards progress. There was a pervasive sentiment that Bangladesh was fated to be forever intertwined with poverty and adversity. Upon his return to a devastated Bangladesh in early 1972, Sheikh Mujibur Rahman, who had spent the entirety of the Liberation War as a political detainee, was confronted with a daunting mission. As the head of the Awami League and now the Prime Minister, he carried the monumental responsibility of rejuvenating a nation in ruins. His objectives were colossal: to promptly re-establish law and order, to lay the foundation of political institutions and infrastructure from the ground up, and to chart a comprehensive roadmap for swift economic progress. However, he faced this Herculean task with scarce resources at his disposal, highlighting the immense challenges that lay ahead. In the aftermath of the war, Bangladesh faced a complex web of challenges as the unity among the coalition forces waned, giving rise to various factions vying for power and economic assets. Sheikh Mujibur Rahman and the Awami League, striving to maintain control, prioritized party loyalty over merit in their appointments, navigating through a landscape fraught with political instability. Adding to the hurdles was the depletion of qualified individuals during the conflict, hampering the government's ability to devise and implement effective developmental policies. The fate of properties and assets once held by Pakistani elites emerged as a critical issue, considering their long-standing dominance over Bangladesh's industries. Responding swiftly, the government nationalized over 700 firms, often handing them to loyalists with little industry-specific expertise. This move steered Bangladesh towards a socialist economic path, with the state assuming ownership of a significant portion of industries, banking, and insurance sectors. Consequently, the private sector faced stringent regulations and profit constraints, heralding a significant shift in the nation's economic framework and signaling the government's intent to consolidate power. Amidst stringent regulations, foreign investment in Bangladesh was only permitted in partnership with the government, a decision that would soon reveal its flaws. The state's control over the economy resulted in significant mismanagement, leading to a dramatic downturn in key sectors. Within a mere 3 years, industrial output plummeted by a staggering 66% due to inefficiencies, while the agricultural sector, crucial for the livelihoods of many, experienced an alarming 84% decline in output. The situation worsened with the devastating floods from April to July 1974, which decimated the nation's rice crop, exacerbating an already precarious food shortage. The aftermath was marked by soaring inflation, reaching an alarming 400%, triggering widespread hoarding and speculation. As the government's attempts to manage the crisis faltered under the weight of corruption, the population faced dire consequences, grappling with scarcity and economic instability. Adding to the crisis, the United States, angered by Bangladesh's trade ties with embargoed Cuba, withheld 2.2 million tons of food aid. Tragically, within just 9 months, 1.5 million people succumbed to starvation. This catastrophe eroded support for Mujibur Rahman, leading to the formation of a broad anti-Mujibur coalition, backed by the military and emerging capitalists. Faced with mounting opposition, Mujibur resorted to authoritarian measures. He declared a state of emergency, consolidating power as both prime minister and president. He formed a paramilitary force to suppress dissent, abolished other political parties, censored the press, and imposed martial law, intensifying efforts to establish a socialist state. By 1975, Bangladesh had morphed into a one-party, totalitarian regime. However, this regime was short-lived. In August of the same year, a violent military coup led to Mujibur's assassination, along with most of his family. Political turmoil ensued with a succession of coups and counter-coups, plunging the nation into chaos. Amidst the aftermath of turmoil, General Ziaur Rahman, popularly known as ZA, ascended to power in 1977 and promptly established the Bangladesh Nationalist Party, heralding a new era of governance marked by sweeping policy shifts. Foremost among these transformative changes was Zia's resolute emphasis on attracting foreign aid to rejuvenate the struggling nation. Although Western nations and international donors had been willing to extend substantial assistance to Bangladesh since its independence, they stipulated a crucial precondition: a departure from socialist policies towards a more liberalized economic system. Under Mujibur Rahman's leadership, such concessions were met with reluctance. However, as Zia assumed control amidst escalating crises, the urgent need for aid became undeniable. To appease foreign donors, his administration embarked on a series of pivotal reforms. Restrictions on foreign investment were lifted, the stagnant stock market was revitalized, tariffs and duties were slashed, and the gradual process of privatizing state-owned enterprises commenced. These bold measures represented a significant departure from the socialist ideals of the past, signaling a shift towards a more market-oriented economy. Zia's government sought to leverage foreign aid and investment as catalysts for economic growth and development, ushering in a new chapter in Bangladesh's quest for prosperity. As Bangladesh embarked on its journey of economic reform, it became the recipient of substantial foreign aid, nearing $1 billion in 1977, representing about 8% of the nation's GDP. These reforms marked a significant turning point, especially for the agricultural sector, crucial for a country grappling with the highest population density in the world. The reforms implemented were far-reaching. The previously extensive subsidized food system was dismantled, and price restrictions were lifted. Import barriers for essential agricultural resources such as fertilizer, mechanized irrigation equipment, and pesticides were also removed. However, the most impactful change came with the introduction of high-yielding variety rice crops. These crops were specifically engineered to resist diseases, shorten growth cycles, and boost calorie output per acre. These innovations revolutionized farming practices, enabling farmers to produce more food on the same plots of land and even extend cultivation into the winter months. Consequently, despite a 10% reduction in land use, agricultural output tripled from 1971 to 2010. This remarkable progress ensured that Bangladesh remained resilient against the threat of famine, a significant achievement following the devastating events of 1974. Despite initial economic success, with the economy doubling in size within 5 years, General Ziaur Rahman chose not to pursue further reforms. As foreign aid declined and poor harvests hit, economic growth slowed by the early 1980s. Zia's attempts to depoliticize the military and suppress opposition fueled uncertainty, leading to 21 coup attempts, culminating in his ousting. Bangladesh plunged once more into political turmoil until Hussein Mohammad Ershad seized power in 1983 through a bloodless coup. To consolidate his rule, Ershad imposed authoritarian measures, outlawing unions and rival parties, dismantling the constitution, and imposing martial law. Despite promising a transition to democracy, Ershad postponed elections and manipulated referendums. However, he reignited economic reforms initiated by Zia. Restrictions on the private sector were lifted, state-owned industries were privatized, and businesses were allowed to compete in banking and insurance. Inspired by the economic success stories of Hong Kong, Singapore, South Korea, and Taiwan, Bangladesh launched a concerted effort to stimulate export-oriented growth. This began with the creation of an export processing zone in the southeastern region, covering 450 acres. Companies operating within this zone enjoyed tax-free importation of machinery, equipment, and manufacturing materials, provided they were strictly used for goods destined for export. To further facilitate industrial expansion, back-to-back letters of credit were introduced, reducing risks for foreign companies selling machinery and equipment to Bangladeshi businesses. Despite these sweeping economic reforms, perhaps the most significant development under the Ershad government was its approach towards non-governmental organizations. Since Bangladesh was among the poorest and least developed nations, it attracted numerous NGOs, many of which had emerged after the independence war. Unlike before, Ershad's administration displayed remarkable openness towards these NGOs, enabling them to offer a wide range of services, including education, finance, healthcare, and family planning, contributing significantly to social development. It's unconventional for countries with political instability, especially those led by military regimes, to relinquish control of basic public services to NGOs. Typically, governments use these services to maintain public support, fearing that allowing non-state actors to take over could weaken their legitimacy and threaten their power. However, Bangladesh's government at the time was too weak to provide all essential services, and raising taxes was politically risky. So Ershad permitted NGOs to operate freely, turning Bangladesh into a testing ground for innovative poverty reduction initiatives. This move led to transformative changes, particularly through two notable NGOs. In 1976, university economics professor Muhammad Yunus observed dire poverty in the village of Jobra. His research revealed that one major obstacle for the community was the lack of access to funds to improve their productivity. In Bangladesh, the financial sector was feeble, leaving the poor at the mercy of banks charging exorbitant interest rates or outright denying them loans. Seeing this plight, Muhammad Yunus, an economics professor, devised a revolutionary solution: microcredit. Yunus pioneered the concept of microcredit by providing small loans to groups of 5 poor rural residents without requiring collateral. These funds were used to purchase productive assets like cattle or to kickstart small businesses. Crucially, group members supported each other during repayment, ensuring collective accountability. This simple yet effective approach boasted an impressive 97% repayment rate. By the early 1980s, Yunus expanded his initiative nationwide, establishing the Grameen Bank in collaboration with the Irshad government and international donors. Where Grameen Bank operated, extreme poverty plummeted from 75% to 48%, and borrowers' incomes surged by 43% compared to non-participants, showcasing the transformative impact of microcredit on poverty alleviation. BRAC, the Bangladesh Rural Advancement Committee, was established by Fazil Hassan Abed, a Bangladeshi-born Shell oil executive who left his position in the UK to aid those in need. Initially focused on building homes for refugees and setting up medical centers post-war, BRAC swiftly diversified its efforts to combat poverty. Recognizing diarrhea as a leading cause of child mortality, BRAC trained members to educate mothers on preparing oral rehydration solutions. Over a decade, they reached 12 million homes across 75,000 villages, slashing diarrhea-related child deaths by 90%. Moreover, BRAC played a pivotal role in providing microcredit to impoverished women who faced significant cultural discrimination. They discovered that empowering female heads of households with access to funds resulted in a higher proportion of money being invested in children's education and healthcare. This program also played a significant role in fostering greater economic inclusion for women, with far-reaching positive implications. Additionally, BRAC, alongside other NGOs and the government, led a comprehensive family planning campaign to tackle the high birth rate, reducing it from nearly 7 births per woman in the 1970s to just 2 today. Much of this progress can be attributed to the significant expansion of NGOs during the Irshad administration, with over 26,000 now operating in the country. However, by 1990, Irshad's hold on power began to weaken due to controversial legislation and rigged elections. Mass demonstrations, strikes, and protests ensued, with the leaders of the major parties, the BNP and AL, offering viable democratic alternatives. In November, the protests gained momentum, persuading the military to withdraw its support for Irshad. Consequently, he stepped down from power on December 6, 1990. Bangladesh was poised to transition into a functioning parliamentary democracy, though challenges lay ahead. Under the supervision of a neutral caretaker government, Bangladesh witnessed a generally perceived free and fair election, resulting in a slight majority for the BNP, with Khaleda Zia, the widow of General Zia, assuming the role of prime minister. During BNP's tenure, Bangladesh pursued economic liberalization by incentivizing foreign investors to fully own industrial firms. To attract foreign investment, restrictions on currency exchange were lifted, and labor laws were simplified to facilitate hiring. Additionally, 7 new export processing zones were established, aiming to stimulate sustained export-oriented growth. However, with limited natural resources, an unskilled workforce, and scarce capital, the question arose, what could Bangladesh export? Taking cues from the rapid development of Asian economies like Korea, China, and Vietnam, Bangladesh identified garments as a promising starting point. The groundwork for this had been laid decades earlier, with developed nations protecting their garment industries just 2 years after Bangladesh gained independence, facing tough competition from cheap imports from Asia. To address the challenges posed by the multi-fiber arrangement, which imposed strict import quotas on major garment-producing countries, Bangladesh seized an unexpected opportunity. Manufacturers found a loophole. They could evade these quotas by establishing factories in countries lacking significant garment industries. Daewoo, a South Korean corporation, capitalized on this loophole by partnering with Desh Ltd to establish a production base in Bangladesh. Bangladesh's status as a least developed country further incentivized this move, granting it preferential duty-free trade with developed markets. In the late 1970s, Desh sent 130 employees to South Korea for intensive training in sewing techniques, factory management, and international marketing. However, this plan faced setbacks as most trained employees left to start their own garment businesses. Despite initial challenges, Bangladesh's garment industry faced slow growth due to restrictive business conditions and economic policies. Yet, with reforms under Zia and Irshad, along with initiatives like the back-to-back letter of credit and the establishment of economic processing zones, garment exports began to soar by the late 1980s. With the establishment of a new democratic system and the evolution of other nations towards more advanced industries, Bangladesh emerged as the prime destination for garment manufacturing. Renting warehouses and employing labor were notably cheaper in Bangladesh, with wages among the lowest globally. Moreover, its vast population ensured a steady supply of workers for new factories. This favorable environment led to a dramatic boom in the garment industry, with around 90% of the workforce comprising poor women. This not only bolstered overall employment, but also lifted incomes for impoverished families. Between 1990 and 2021, the industry's value surged from $640 million to over $34.2 billion, constituting 81% of the nation's exports and establishing Bangladesh as the world's second-largest garment industry hub, behind only China. This surge in garment exports significantly boosted foreign currency reserves, coinciding with another trend: increased economic globalization in the 1980s and 1990s. As international demand for labor grew, Bangladeshi workers seized opportunities abroad, sending remittances back home to support their families. While Bangladeshi workers migrated to various countries, a significant number headed to Saudi Arabia, the UAE, and other Gulf states. Remittances from these workers surged from $778 million in 1990 to $10.8 billion in 2010. The combined revenue from garment exports and migrant labor transformed Bangladesh's historical trade deficit into a surplus, reducing its reliance on foreign aid and enabling increased investments in education, energy projects, and transportation infrastructure. These investments included the construction of vital infrastructure, such as the Bangabandhu and Padma bridges, linking major sections of the country. The garment industry has become a cornerstone of Bangladesh's economy, constituting up to 80% of the country's total exports. This success can be attributed to various factors, including government initiatives such as the Export Development Fund, established in 1989, which provides exporters with access to lower interest rates. Additionally, Bangladesh's status as a least developed country grants it tax-free access to European markets, stimulating trade and economic growth. Furthermore, with China's transition towards higher-end manufacturing, Bangladesh has found opportunities to fill the gap in low-end manufacturing. The ready-made garments industry offers average salaries that are double the country's minimum wage, enabling women to achieve financial independence. However, one of the most significant outcomes of the garment industry's growth is the empowerment of women, who previously faced challenges in securing stable incomes. The completion of the Padma Bridge, now the longest in Bangladesh, has facilitated exporting abroad by linking the less developed southwest region with the rest of the country. This bridge provides a quicker route to the second-largest port for exporters shipping goods to Europe. However, beneath these positive indicators lie several vulnerabilities that threaten to impede further progress. As Bangladesh moves towards graduation from its least developed country status by 2026, it will lose preferential trade benefits with wealthier nations. This opens up opportunities for other countries like Cambodia and Ethiopia to capture some of Bangladesh's market share. Additionally, Bangladesh's competitive advantage in garments hinges largely on its low wages, posing challenges to sustaining its position in the global market. Simultaneously, Bangladesh grapples with massive, unplanned urbanization. Over 44 million people have migrated from rural areas to major cities in just 3 decades, straining infrastructure development. This rapid urban growth has led to the proliferation of sprawling slums, exacerbating poverty, inequality, and pollution. The situation is expected to worsen, with an additional 45 million projected to move to already congested cities by 2050. Compounding these challenges is Bangladesh's vulnerability to climate change, with nearly 75% of the nation lying below sea level. Severe weather events already cause $1 billion in damage annually, further threatening the nation's stability and development. By 2050, climate change impacts are expected to escalate, with annual damages reaching $3 billion and potentially displacing 19 million people due to intensified storms and flooding. These challenges pose significant threats to Bangladesh's future, but with strategic planning and effective policies, they can be mitigated. However, a more pressing issue looms large, surpassing all others combined: the government structure and politics. Since its inception, Bangladesh has grappled with weak institutions, military intervention in politics, and authoritarian leaders who exploit their power. Corruption permeates every level of society and the economy, rooted in a system of patron-client relationships where powerful individuals offer protection, employment, or benefits in exchange for support, loyalty, or services. Addressing these internal issues is crucial for Bangladesh's progress and stability. Adding to the complexity are systemic issues such as shaky contract enforcement, weak property rights, and inadequate law enforcement mechanisms. These factors contribute to Bangladesh's dismal standing in global rankings for ease of doing business, placing it at a lowly 168th position. Consequently, the country grapples with persistently low levels of foreign investment, impeding efforts to diversify its economy away from its heavy reliance on the garment industry. The challenges of governance and corruption have further exacerbated under the tenure of Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina, who is one of the two surviving daughters of Sheikh Mujibur Rahman, the founding father of Bangladesh. Amidst all of these, however, one thing unquestionably holds true. Bangladesh has undeniably shattered perceptions of being a hopeless case and is poised for a brighter future. Thanks for tuning in to this episode. Be sure to give this video a thumbs up and hit the subscribe button for more enlightening content like this. If you found this video helpful, you'll definitely want to check out the one playing on your screen next. Simply click, and I'll catch you in the next video.